Okay, welcome to our class on defensive driving. Now, first off, here at Interstate Truck Driving School, we are not talking to a bunch of high school kids. Any of you that are watching this program are experienced drivers coming to us to learn how to drive trucks. You know, I've been teaching high school kids for 32 years, and that's a challenge because the high school kid doesn't understand the concept of defensive driving. Now, I sincerely hope that your first contact with Interstate Truck Driving School, that whomever it is that you spoke to, asked you how your driving record was. Because in order to have a lot of opportunities anyway in this industry, you need to have a good driving record. If you don't have a good driving record, it is going to limit your opportunities. And the number of issues that you have in your driving record and the severity of them and the age of them is going to affect how difficult it might be to get you a position. If you have a perfect driving record, getting you a job is like pushing a marble down a hill. It'll go right away. It'll be smooth for you. On the other hand, if you've got several issues, then it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. So significant difference in the ease at which you're going to get a job is dependent upon your driving record. If there's few enough of them and they're long enough ago, then there won't be an issue. There is a possibility too, incidentally, of expunging certain things on your record. And we have had customers that have gone through that process because it helps them to get a job. So the premise here is that you are already a defensive driver. You already know how to drive a vehicle safely. So our intention with this class is to reinforce what you already know and to introduce you to some specific nuances to driving truck that are unique to them. So that's our intention here. You could boil it all down to space management. And the most critical factor in driving a commercial motor vehicle safe, and this is true of any vehicle, really, but it's proper following distance. That's the thing that you have to be managing constantly, the most intently. Now, your textbook is going to tell you that you should have 1 second of following distance for every 10 feet of vehicle that you're driving, plus an extra second if you're over 40 miles an hour. So that means these tractor-trailer rigs that we're driving, for those of you that are taking the professional tractor-trailer program, we're talking about vehicles that are 65 to 70 feet long. So that means you should have 7 or 8 seconds of following distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. And we're going to talk about that in more detail a little later on in our program today. And I'll have another video that talks to that too, but I'll talk about that specifically in more detail. But following distance is critical. Now, there's 5 factors involved in space management with a truck, and only 3 of those are relevant really to cars. That's what's ahead of you, behind you, and to the side of you. So following distance, that's the distance ahead of you. We're going to talk about that in detail. What's next to you? I always like to straddle myself in traffic. I don't care what I'm driving, and I don't care what the other vehicle is. I do not like to drive right alongside of another vehicle. I would like there to be some space. So I don't care whether it's a car, truck, motorcycle, I don't care what it is. I like to be staggered in traffic so that I've got some room to the sides of me. You can't always maintain that, but to the best of my ability, I do. Tailgating. If someone's tailgating me while I'm driving a large truck, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm not going to make much of an adjustment for it. I am concerned about that driving my car. I will make adjustments. I will reduce my speed slightly. But I'll tell you this, I do not brake test people. I do not flash my brake lights at people. I don't slam on the brakes if someone's tailgating me. I'm going to do nothing to try to antagonize them. I'll just drive my normal, safe methods, and then things should be fine. But the 2 other things that we need to talk about are space management in terms of what's above us and what's below us. Now, we've got a couple of YouTube videos we can show you. One that you can go to the website yourself and watch these videos. Go to 11foot8.com. So it's 11 FOOT, the number 8.com. It's rather funny. Shows you a variety of trucks that have hit a bridge down in Durham, North Carolina. And the interesting thing about that bridge is that it's very well marked, big signs, flashing lights, and yet on a continual basis trucks are running into that bridge. Actually, they're running into a support beam that the city or railroad or whoever it was, they put up a support beam because there were so many people running into the bridge, they put up this support beam ahead of it so that the trucks that were running into the support beam, not the bridge. So the support beam's at the same height as the bridge, but that way they run into the support beam and therefore don't damage the bridge. It's important that you manage your overhead space. Another video you can look at if you go to YouTube and do a search for bank canopy. You'll find a YouTube video of some individual in a Dodge pickup truck pulling a fifth wheel camper, and he runs into a bank canopy and knocks the thing down. It's kind of humorous. But again, it's an example of someone that wasn't paying attention to height issues. Now, your Trucker's Atlas is going to give you a variety of information that's really important. And one of the things that you're going to find in your Trucker's Atlas is that you're going to find weight and size limitations state by state by state. And what this information is going to tell you, it's going to tell you how much weight you're allowed on your steering axle, your single axles, tandem axles, gross vehicle weight. It's going to give you your maximum width and maximum height. Now here in Minnesota, and it's also giving you other information too, okay? Lots of information. But what's interesting is in Minnesota, the height limit is 13 foot 6 inches. There are a lot of states that allow 14 foot height on their vehicles, including Alaska, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Idaho, Kansas allows 14 foot. Montana, Nebraska, Nevada allow 14 foot. New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, so you can see that this is pretty much west. South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Washington State. Oh, and Wyoming. So there's a lot of states east of the Mississippi that allow 14-foot trailers. Okay, so now the other very pertinent information in this Trucker's Atlas is you will find on a, again, state-by-state basis, low clearance locations and weigh scale locations. Now, Arkansas, as an example, has about a dozen low clearance routes, but they've got a lot of restricted routes. California doesn't have but about 7 low clearance locations. Remember, California's 14 foot. What state is it? There's a state that has just a gazillion. Oh, it's Texas. That's what it is. Texas has a 14-foot height limit on its trailers, trucks and trailers, but look at all of the height restrictions locations for low bridges. I mean, I don't even know how many there are, 100, 200, I don't know. There's a gazillion of them compared to these other states. Now, what's important for you to understand is this. The premise of Interstate Truck Driving School, the training that we're providing you, the premise of that training is to prepare you to go to work for a major carrier. It's not our intention to prepare you to go to work as an owner-operator. We're preparing you to go to work for Swift or Rail or TMC or Warner or US Express or Stevens Transport or Schneider, one of these major carriers, okay? And they are going to give you route instructions. So let's make this crystal clear. You must follow route instructions. Now, when we talk about trip planning in our hours of service class, I do talk about different options in terms of routes to avoid traffic, stuff like that. So we need to quantify this a little bit by saying if you've been given some route instructions and you would like to deviate from that, then you have to negotiate that with your dispatcher. You have to connect with your dispatcher or driver manager, whatever they call it, the company you're working for, and say, hey, instead of going down such and such, can I go down whatchamacallit route? And if you're given permission by your carrier, then fine, you're good to go. But what you cannot do, you cannot deviate from the instructions that you've been given. You can negotiate different instructions perhaps, but you cannot deviate from the mandate that you're given by your carrier. Because I will promise you something, if there's a low bridge, if you're picking up a load of whatchamacallits at the whatchamacallit factory and 3 blocks down the road there's a low bridge, any company that you're working for is going to know about that low bridge. You know why? because one of their trucks has already hit that bridge previously. And so they know that, they remember that, they filed that into their memory bank, and so they don't want any more trucks hitting that bridge. So they know about that bridge, so that's why they're routing you over this way, okay? So it's real important that you understand that you've got to stick to your route instructions. That is a big, 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 big red flag. If you ever deviate from route instructions, you will be fired and you will be blackballed from this industry if you deviate from route instructions. Now, if you're going to go the whole 9 yards and become an owner-operator and operate your own rig, well, then you're going to have to use resources like the Trucker's Atlas, the current GPSs that are programmed for truckers. You can also program that in. You can program your height into the GPS and tell the GPS to select you a route that will keep you within those limits. You still have to drive attentively, though. All of these bridges, every single bridge out there that has a low clearance is marked. And so the people that are running into them are doing so because they're not paying attention. So if you pay attention to what you're doing, follow your route instructions, then you're going to be fine. If you're an owner operator, you're going to have to put a lot more into this to make sure that you are taking a safe route. Keep in mind also that in terms of low clearance, you're going to get hung up. It's possible to get hung up on railroad tracks if you have a low slung trailer, if you have a drop deck moving van or drop deck electronics van, a lowboy trailer, if you're pulling boats, if you're pulling cars on a car hauler, all those trailers are quite low to the ground and you could get hung up on the railroad tracks. Now, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration views that as to be driver error to get hung up on the railroad tracks, so that's your responsibility to make sure that you don't get hung up on the railroad tracks. So here again, follow your route instructions and you'll be fine. You know, and just for the sake of discussion, if I were hauling boats, and I'd love to do that. I love boats. I love being by the ocean, by water. So personally, that wouldn't be a job. That'd be a vacation for me to haul boats. So if I was going into a marina with a boat, what I would do is I would call ahead of time and talk to the people at the marina and see because I'll look at my map ahead of time and I'll see, okay, there's railroad tracks there near the marina. And see, this is true. I had a boat down at Lake Pepin, the Wisconsin side of Lake Pepin, here some time ago, and there was a railroad track right alongside the marina. And there were 2 crossings to get into that marina. And one of them had a real steep crown to it, and you would get hung up on a trailer with that thing. The other one was nice and flat and manageable. So you'd call the marina ahead of time and get some advice. Now, if the person I'm talking to on the phone at the marina doesn't give me what I believe to be accurate, good advice, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the local police department, because I should be able to get some good information out of them. And don't ever hesitate to call law enforcement to get advice, suggestions, local road information, route instructions. You know, law enforcement would much rather be proactive and help you prior to an incident rather than responding to an incident in a reactive mode. So law enforcement is going to be very helpful should you feel the need to call them. So don't hesitate to do that. You know, you need to do your homework. You need to proactively plan where you're going ahead of time to make sure that it's safe. It is your responsibility to drive these things safely and legally from point A to point B. That's your job. And you've got the resources to do it. And I mean, and that's why these truckers' atlases exist. You can also get all kinds of information on the internet. There are web pages for every single state where you can get up-to-date information on road restrictions, on traffic conditions, weather conditions, all kinds of stuff on the internet. So do the homework to make sure that you don't have any problems down the road.